Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Rome's ghost stadium, the Circus Maximus. This place was once the absolute monster entertainment engine of the entire ancient world.
It's funny. If you go to Rome today, you'll find this long, beautiful grassy park. But that very spot is where a structure that absolutely dwarfed the Colosseum stood for 1,000 years. So the big question is, how does the largest stadium in all of human history just disappear? Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with the ghost itself. This quiet, pretty unassuming park was once the most important, most chaotic, and most politically charged piece of real estate in the entire Roman Empire. It's wild to think about.
I mean, the sheer scale of the change is just staggering. Try to imagine the noise, the crowds, the smell of an arena packed with over 150,000 screaming fans. And then just silence. The heart of Rome's public life literally stopped beating. And today, you can walk your dog right across the ancient finish line without even knowing it's there.
So, how did this absolute monster of a stadium even get built? Well, it wasn't built in a day or even a decade. This was a project that spans centuries, with each emperor trying to one-up the last, adding their own layer of glory and ambition to its design.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. Over 150,000 people. And some ancient sources claim it was even closer to 250,000. To put that into perspective, that's more than double what the famous Colosseum could hold. It rivals the biggest sports stadiums we have in the entire world today. This wasn't just a building, it was practically a city within a city.
The circus really grew up right alongside Rome itself. It started out pretty humble, just simple wooden benches in the valley between the Palatine and Aventine hills. Then Caesar came along and made it bigger. Augustus, he brought a literal piece of Egypt, a massive obelisk, to be its centerpiece. And finally, it was Emperor Trajan who gave it its final, just awe-inspiring stone form in the 2nd century AD.
Now, to really get the racing, you have to understand the track. You had the carceres, these incredible spring-loaded gates engineered to give all 12 chariots a perfectly fair start. The central barrier, the spina, was a work of art, covered in statues and shrines. But the truly crucial points were the metae, the turning posts. That's where lives were won and very often lost. And watching over all of it was the emperor in the pulvinar, his divine box that connected him to the gods and the people. Every single element was designed for maximum drama.
But look, the arena itself was just the stage. The real story was the main event. This wasn't just a place for sport, it was a theater of life and death, where the best charioteers were treated like actual gods on wheels. A charioteer's life could really go one of two ways. You could be like Scorpus, a total legend, famous across the empire with over 2,000 wins to your name, who died in a fiery crash at just 26 years old. Or if you were unbelievably skilled and incredibly lucky, you could be Diocles. This guy survived 24 years in the sport and retired with a fortune that would be worth billions today. The risk was absolute, but man, the rewards were just unimaginable.
Okay, picture the scene. A hush falls over the massive crowd. The magistrate drops a white cloth, the mappa, and bam, the gates fly open. For 7 laps, over 3 brutal miles, it is just pure, unadulterated chaos. The make-or-break moment was always that first turn around the metae. Drivers would try to cut each other off, forcing these spectacular crashes that the Romans called naufragia, which literally means shipwrecks. And all the while, fans would track the laps by watching 7 bronze dolphins get tipped over and 7 wooden eggs get lowered on the spina. And get this, the danger was baked right into their equipment. To get more leverage to control their 4-horse teams, drivers wrapped the leather reins around their waists. This meant that if they crashed, they'd be dragged to their death unless they could somehow pull out a curved knife they carried and cut themselves free in time. Every single race was a life-or-death gamble. And the fans? Oh, they were anything but passive. Archaeologists have found these lead curse tablets buried near racetracks. Fans would actually write out these magical spells, calling on demons to maim and kill the drivers and horses of the other teams. This wasn't just team spirit. We're talking about a fanatical life-or-death obsession. And all that obsession, it had huge political consequences. You see, the circus was one of the only places where the regular Roman people could shout directly at their emperor. And that collective power, it could be absolutely terrifying. Everything revolved around the factions, mostly the blues and the greens. Supporting a team wasn't a hobby. It defined who you were.
It was tied to your social class, your politics, your core identity. These weren't just sports clubs. They were more like political parties with armies of die-hard followers. In 532 AD, in the Hippodrome of Constantinople, a stadium modeled directly after the Circus Maximus, this faction power just exploded in the infamous Nika riots. It is the ultimate example of how the energy of the stadium could spill out and threaten to bring down the entire empire. It all started with a botched execution. So at the next races, the crowd starts begging Emperor Justinian for mercy for the two survivors, one from the blues, one from the greens. He just ignored them. Big mistake. In a shocking move, the rival factions united. Their separate team chants merged into a single, terrifying word. Nika, conquer. They poured out of the stadium and literally set the capital city on fire. So the city is burning, the mob has crowned a new emperor, and Justinian is ready to flee. But his wife, Empress Theodora, she refuses to go. She reportedly tells him she would rather die an empress than live as a fugitive, saying royalty is a fine burial shroud. What a line. He stayed, and his general Belisarius tricked the rioters back into the Hippodrome and massacred an estimated 30,000 of them. The power of the factions was brutally crushed. So, all of this brings us back to our central mystery. After 1,000 years as the center of the Roman world, how did this giant finally fall? I mean, where did it all go? Well, the truth is, it died a slow death. The very last race was held way back in 549 AD, long after the Western Roman Empire had fallen. With no state to pay for the games, the circus just went silent. During the Middle Ages, it was abandoned. And then, during the Renaissance, it suffered the final insult. It became a convenient quarry. Popes and princes just stripped its marble and stone to build the new palaces and churches of Rome. Whatever they didn't take was slowly buried by floods and time, and today the original track is down there about 20 feet right under your feet. But its ghost is still there, you know? The two Egyptian obelisks that once decorated its center now stand proudly in other famous Roman squares. The very shape of the valley is a perfect fossil of the racetrack. And today, the site has actually gone back to its roots as a place for huge gatherings, hosting big concerts and public celebrations. The roar has returned. It's just in a different key. The story of the Circus Maximus is such a powerful reminder that even the grandest things we build can vanish, becoming quiet fields and buried memories. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What epic history lies just beneath the surface of the world we see every single day?